Hello, I'm Peter Whittle. Now, since the election, the mainstream broadcasters have been exhaustively covering everything in the new Parliament, from Labour MPs unwilling to take the oath of allegiance to the King to Nigel Farage's maiden speech. This is as it should be, of course. Certainly the arrival of 5 new Reform MPs in the Commons is an exceptional event worthy of celebration. But there's been another development, one which I believe is of the greatest importance, one which constitutes a real challenge to our democracy and indeed our political culture, and which has therefore been hardly covered at all by mainstream broadcasters. That is the entry into our Parliament of Islamic Sectarianism, with 4 independents, 5 if one is to include Jeremy Corbyn, being elected purely on their direct appeal to the concerns of Muslim voters, specifically on the issue of Gaza. One of these new MPs was elected in Batley, the very same constituency where a school teacher was driven into hiding for showing his pupils a cartoon of Mohammed. Now, the effect of this new sectarianism was felt throughout the election. The Labour vote fell by more than 14% in those constituencies where the Muslim population was more than 15%. Huge majorities became marginals. In some ways, this has been the natural progression of what we've seen on our streets in the past year, with extremism unchecked by a compromised and increasingly fearful police force, and indeed the intimidation of MPs in their constituencies. We also had a foretaste of it in the local elections this year, and the election of a Green Party Muslim councillor in Leeds, which was accompanied by shouts of Allahu Akbar. But the electoral success of so-called Gaza candidates in the general election was this time aided and abetted by a new organisation called the Muslim Vote. Now, this is not a political party. It's an alliance of over 20 different activist organisations, which states its aims very clearly on its website. Their demands do not just relate to the Palestinian issue. They cover areas such as counter-terrorism, policing, even education. And amongst them is the demand to adopt the APPG definition of Islamophobia, which, as I've talked about here before, will for all practical purposes virtually outlaw all criticism of Islam. It would be a naive mistake to assume that this new sectarianism will somehow wither away once the issue of Gaza fades. As the Muslim Vote website proudly states, quote, "We are here for the long term. In 2024, we will lay the foundations for our community's political future," unquote. Now, I don't need to explain to you how we arrived at this situation. Mass immigration on an unprecedented scale, the formation of parallel societies. This will only intensify under this Labour government. Now, what this means for us, for you and me now, is that we must ensure we are fully aware from now on how this new force in our political landscape develops. As a start, I would strongly advise you to look at the website of the Muslim Vote, at their aims and demands. And also alongside this, we must do all that we can to alert the public about the consequences for free speech of the likely new definition of Islamophobia. We must do these things because the media establishment will not. All those concerned about the future of this country, and that's all of us, must not ignore these warnings. Thank you.